the big giant cope right now is this idea that like, oh, Nintendo Switch 2 games are failing. Specifically like third-party games. Right now, like game journals are trying to push this like already debunked claim that third-party games aren't selling well on Nintendo hardware. And they're trying to blame the console and the game cards and all this stuff. But like the thing I want to focus on today is the price point, because this is the giant cope for most of these people. If they're sitting there, they're like, oh, who's going to pay more money on Nintendo Switch 2 for these old ports? And I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, first of all, like I bought like a lot of these games. I bought Street Fighter 6, I bought like Hitman, World of Assassinations, Fantasy Life 2, right? Like I bought a lot of games on Switch 2 day one. And I can tell you that they are not significantly more expensive. You know, Mario Kart 8 is an outlier. You know, most of these games are priced around like $50 to $60. Okay, they are not significantly more than other versions of the game. Like Street Fighter 6 even comes with like the first 2 years of DLC, like the character DLC. So like, yeah, again, enough of this like grandstanding of like, oh, people are like they're not happy with the price because, you know, Mario Kart World, you know, the game that people would said was going to fail because of the price point is the best-selling game on the console right now. So, like, this is, like, this in and of itself kind of dismantles their entire argument that, like, somehow the price point of Nintendo Switch 2 is going to, like, destroy the success of these games when that's, like, pretty clearly observably not true. It's just been this amazing kind of debacle seeing, like, game journals try and like gaslight people into thinking that there's nothing to play on Switch 2. Like, and that's kind of my takeaway on this. Like, if you don't own these games on any other platform, right, these games aren't like, you're not going to like look at this game and be like, oh, that's an old game, I don't want that. Like, if you don't own the game and you have a Switch 2, like, you know, you're going to be picking up Street Fighter 6. You're going to be picking up Hitman or Fantasy Life or, like, whatever else is out available on the console. You're not, like, sitting there going, like, oh, well, Yakuza 0 was for sale on, like, Xbox One for $5 that one time. I can't buy this. It's like, that's not how this works. These are new releases on a new console. It doesn't matter if they're ports from other platforms. It doesn't diminish their value at all, honestly. So, like, yeah, it's just been this, like, gigantic cope. I think to kind of preserve PlayStation and Xbox's reputation as being, like, the real third-party game machines. Because I've been saying this for a long time. Without that image, like, these brands fundamentally have nothing, you know, because Nintendo's way more popular. They have way more variety. They have way more games, way higher quality games and hardware. But, like, you know, ever since I was a kid, like, you know, it's just been the same thing over and over again. You know, people screaming at you about, like, well, I want to play COD or I want to play Gran Turismo. And then, like, you know, like, if you actually look at their, like, play times or whatever, like, they pop the game in, like, once when they first get it and then, like, never touch it again. You know, that is a very common occurrence with the PlayStation and Xbox audience. They don't really play games. And that's why they don't really have hardcore fans. What they have is people who have been indoctrinated to hate other brands, which is why they obsess so much over like what Nintendo fans are saying and doing and what they're playing, and why they're constantly spurging out over like things like this that nobody cares about, you know. Because, like, I'm sure there are games on Switch 2 that have not done well, you know, third-party games that have not done well, but, like, how exactly is that going to diminish the success of the console at all? Because there clearly are games that are doing well on the console. The console is clearly selling well. So this giant cope that people have is that, like, that no one's buying anything on the platform, that it's failing and that Nintendo lost. It's just a giant cope from people who can't bring themselves to admit that Nintendo has won the console war, right? And it's been like that, like, for the past couple of years. Like Nintendo Switch 1 was the market leader all generation long, but like after Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, the narrative like shifted to be this thing where like, well, the console's in free fall and it needs to be replaced now. When like what actually happened was that it just peaked in popularity, because of Animal Crossing, one of their second biggest IP, right? Like again, these people can't seem to like acknowledge reality that Nintendo is popular and that they are successful and that they are selling games and that people do like what they do and do like their content and are willing to pay these prices for them. Like again, that's my thing about this is that like we're seriously seeing people complain about the price of Nintendo consoles and their games when they are lower than average or about the same as like the average MSRP. Like that's something that like I've noticed, looking at like the numbers, like Angry Joe was trying to tell people that like Mario Kart World was like $90. Like I don't know what he was talking about. Like I think he was like trying to say like, oh, it's $90 in Canada or something, but no, it's 80. Like they were like deliberately trying to like gaslight you into thinking Nintendo games were going to be like significantly more expensive than the competition, but no, like Donkey Kong's launching at 70. You have like other major games launching at like higher price points. It's like at like the same price point, or lower price points. You know, Welcome Tour costs like $10, like it's like $80 isn't going to be the standard for every single game in existence. It's going to be like based on the budget and based on like, like the mass appeal. So something like Mario Kart, which appeals to everyone, is going to be sold at a higher price point. Tears of the Kingdom, which appeals to everyone, is going to be sold at a higher price point. Like Bonanza, which is slightly more niche, is going to be like sold at a lower price point to like draw more people in. So like it's definitely a shift in business strategy from Nintendo. Like so instead of selling everything at like the standard 50, they've been experimenting more, and they've been doing this a little bit with like minor games, budget titles, and like stuff like Rhythm Heaven, stuff like that. Like and I do think it's really really interesting to see like just how people are reacting to like these kinds of announcements, because like you see all these people crying about like not wanting to support higher price points, but like you also don't see these people going out and supporting games that are releasing at the lower price points. You're not seeing people going out and like congratulating Nintendo for releasing Welcome Tour for $10 instead of 50, because they easily could have charged it you know charge $50 for that, but they chose not to. You have people who will like try and tell you that like there are no games on Nintendo consoles, and yet like don't even really bother to look into them. Like the cope right now is that like Mario Kart World is the only game on the platform, and yet like I find myself just swamped with all these great games I was playing, not only on the Switch 2, but like stuff I started on Switch 1. Like I just finished Suikoden, and I moved and I'm playing Dragon Quest 3 now. Like I bought Raito, and that game released on like Switch 1 and Switch 2. Like so again, there's no shortage of games to play on this thing. So like this idea that like the prices are too high is just downright ridiculous and really needs to be like held in contempt by like the general community, because like you certainly don't see people complaining about the price of like PCs or like new Steam games. I can tell you like I didn't hear a peep out of people when Tekken 8 sold for 70, right? When they raised the prices from 60 to 70. Like again, that's just one example. But like it's phones are sold for like $1,000 now. Like again, like what is with this idea that like Nintendo can't sell their games? Like they're too cheap and affordable, like, and that they can't raise prices because that makes them greedy. Like that's just a dumb way of looking at it. It really really is, and I do think fans really need to take a stand against this kind of rhetoric.